Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking something that usually looks like a dense, highly technical wall of information, the SAP Profitability Analysis, or COPA, configuration manual, and we're going to totally transform it. Think of this as a logical blueprint. We're going to use it to build an incredibly powerful data reporting engine for your business. Let's dive right in.
All right, so here is our game plan for the build. First, defining the operating concern. Second, characteristics and value fields. Third, setting the valuation strategy. And finally, planning and data flows. Kicking things off with Section 1, defining the operating concern.
Okay, before we even think about configuring a single data point or rule, we've got to pour our metaphorical foundation. You can think of the operating concern as the master universe where all of your profit and loss data is eventually going to live. It absolutely dictates the fundamental currency and structure for how your entire company evaluates if it's actually making money. In the system, we initiate this whole process by staking our claim with a unique identifier. Setting up something like Z100 represents this brand new, custom-built reporting engine. It essentially gives us a clean slate to build upon.
Now, you might be wondering why we explicitly select both costing-based and account-based COPA. Well, doing both allows us to capture completely different layers of financial truth. Costing-based gives us that incredible flexibility we need for management reporting, while the account-based side keeps us tightly reconciled with our standard financial accounting. It's the best of both worlds.
Moving right along to Section 2, characteristics and value fields.
With our foundation poured, let's actually frame the house by defining our specific data buckets. To pull this off, you absolutely have to understand two core concepts. Think of characteristics as the structural labels that classify our data. They answer the what industry, what season, what sales office. Value fields, on the other hand, act as the actual numerical buckets, holding the quantifiable amounts. They answer how much, like how much sales quantity or how much direct labor.
Constructing a custom characteristic isn't just slapping a name on a field. It's a very precise technical procedure. We have to define the name, set the exact data type and length, and crucially, we have to generate check tables. This ensures the system knows exactly how to validate any new data points that get entered. For example, when setting up a custom characteristic like WWK1, we explicitly prompt SAP to automatically generate those necessary check tables. That automation is absolutely key to maintaining a clean, error-free reporting environment down the line. Shifting gears to the how much side of our framing, we need to construct our value fields. In SAP COPA, the naming convention for these custom fields typically kicks off with VV. Setting up something like VVK1 designates it as a specific amount bucket for our analysis. And here is where it gets incredibly powerful, the mapping. We meticulously assign standard expected costs, like raw materials and direct labor, to one distinct set of value fields, say VVK1 through VVK15. Then, we map the actual real-world costs to a completely separate set, VVK21 through VVK32. By physically separating the standard from the actual right inside our engine, we enable highly detailed side-by-side variance tracking later on. It's a real game changer. Finally, to finish our framing, we take all those individual custom labels and buckets we just created, and we literally bolt them into our operating concern's central data structure known as CE1K100. That activates them and makes them fully available for reporting.
Next up is Section 3, setting the valuation strategy.
The house is framed, so now we have to establish the rules. We do this by creating costing keys and assigning them to specific valuation points. We're managing 4 distinct strategies here. First, standard costing, which updates at the exact moment of customer billing. Second, the material ledger flow, happening right after month-end closing procedures to give us actual costs. Third is manual planning, which is essentially our foundational budgeting. And fourth, automatic planning, which uses tools like KEPM for those complex sales and production forecasts.
Okay, let's take a quick beat. We've built an amazing, highly customized, but completely empty reporting engine. So how do we actually turn on the plumbing and flood this engine with your real business data?
That brings us to our final phase, Section 4, planning and data flows.
In this execution phase, your custom structure really comes to life. It catches data pouring down from 3 massive organizational pipes. You've got direct financial and material postings from FI/MM, you've got production variances flowing in from your production planning cycle, and of course the heavy hitter, customer billing data flowing over from your sales and distribution or SD cycle.
What makes this architecture so impressive is just how adaptable it is. Surprisingly, even if your company doesn't run the full sales and distribution module, you are not locked out. You can still pipe direct financial postings straight from FI into your costing-based profitability analysis using a straightforward customer debit to sales credit flow.
But listen, attention to detail here is absolutely paramount. For non-financial accounting line item settlements, you must ensure the settlement type is designated as C. It's exactly these minor, highly specific routing rules that make sure your data flows perfectly into those buckets without throwing massive system errors during your month-end close.
And this brings us to a huge reality check. Building this engine isn't something you do perfectly on a whiteboard. It's deeply iterative. You have to make a configuration change, run a mock production process, execute the closing cycles, and then manually verify that your expected variance breakup actually landed in the correct value fields we set up earlier.
Ultimately, mastering this COPA configuration isn't just about successfully clicking through a maze of SAP menus. It's about engineering a bespoke system that unlocks the multifaceted financial story currently buried deep within your transactional data. So, looking at your own reporting structures today, is your foundation truly robust enough to reveal your real profitability? Or are you just skimming the surface? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.